If you've ever had a kidney stone, you know the pain is, well, it's something you never forget. But what if one of the biggest keys to preventing them isn't just about what you eat, but is actually tied to your body weight? A really fascinating study is shining a new light on this, and it's a connection that might surprise you. Let's dive in.
So you gotta ask the question, why are these things becoming so incredibly common? I mean, it feels like more and more people are dealing with this, and it turns out that's not just a feeling. The numbers are pretty stark.
Let's rewind the clock a bit. If we go all the way back to 1980, data showed that about 3.2% of people in the US had ever had a kidney stone. Okay, so remember that number, 3.2%.
Now, fast forward to 2018, that number has jumped to 11%. That is a massive leap, more than 3 times as many people. And researchers noticed that this rise has been happening right alongside another major health trend, the rise in obesity. So, what's going on here? How are these two things linked?
Well, the answer, believe it or not, is found by decoding your urine. To really figure this out, scientists have a gold standard method for looking under the hood, so to speak, to see exactly what's going on inside someone's body that makes them form stones in the first place.
And it's called a 24-hour urine collection. Yep, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. For a full day, you collect everything. What this does is it gives doctors a complete chemical blueprint of what's happening in your body. It shows them the specific metabolic glitches that are causing these painful crystals to form.
So what are they looking for? Well, they measure all the key ingredients, things like calcium, oxalate, and uric acid. Those are the actual building blocks of the stones themselves. But they also look at your urine's pH, its acidity, and even the good stuff, like citrate, which is a natural substance that actually helps prevent stones. It's the whole shebang.
Okay, so what happened when the researchers took over 1,300 of these tests and sorted them by body mass index, more BMI? Well, a really clear pattern popped right out for people with obesity. It turns out they have a very unique risk profile for forming stones.
The first big risk factor that jumped out was highly acidic urine, which just means it has a low pH. So why does that matter? Well, think of it like this. Super acidic urine creates the perfect environment, like the perfect breeding ground for a very specific type of stone to form, uric acid stones.
And when you look at the data, the difference is just, wow, it's not even close. You can see that having low urine pH is way more common in patients with obesity. This isn't some small statistical blip. It's a huge clue pointing to a specific metabolic issue.
Let me put it another way. If you have obesity and you form stones, you are almost 4 times more likely to have this specific problem of overly acidic urine. 4 times. That's a major piece of the puzzle.
All right, the next piece of that puzzle? High uric acid. Uric acid is one of those key building blocks I mentioned earlier. So if your body is putting too much of it into your urine, you're essentially just handing over a constant supply of raw materials for making stones. And again, look at the difference here. Patients with obesity were more than twice as likely to have high uric acid levels in their urine. It's another really clear metabolic signature that adds to their risk.
So that translates to being over 3 times more likely to have this specific risk factor. You can start to see how these things stack up, right? It's creating this perfect storm inside the body for stones to form.
And the third major factor is high sodium. Basically, eating a lot of salt messes with how your kidneys handle calcium. The more salt that goes into your urine, the more calcium it kind of drags along with it. And that's a huge problem, because that leads to the most common type of kidney stone there is, the calcium oxalate stone.
Now, high sodium was actually the most common problem across all the patients. But even so, look at the difference. It was way more common in the group with obesity. We're talking nearly 2/3 of them had this issue.
Okay, but here's where the story gets really interesting. This isn't just about what happens at one end of the BMI scale. The researchers found that being underweight carries its own completely different set of risks. And this really drives home the whole idea that stone prevention can't be one size fits all.
Just look at this side by side. It's fascinating. The risk profile for patients with obesity is all about having too much of certain things. Too much acid, too much uric acid, too much sodium. But for underweight patients, it's the exact opposite. Their biggest problems were low urine volume and, most importantly, low citrate.
And get a load of this number. A staggering 85.4% of underweight patients had low levels of citrate. Now remember, citrate is the good guy. It's a natural stone inhibitor. Having low levels of it is like having a fire with no fire extinguisher around. It was, by far, their single biggest risk factor.
So what's the big picture here?
what's the main takeaway? It's that the generic advice you always hear, just drink more water. While it's not bad advice, it often doesn't get to the real root of the problem. This research shows exactly why a one-size-fits-all approach is just not going to cut it.
And honestly, the study's authors really say it best themselves. They conclude that body weight differences are associated with different risk profiles, thus underscoring the importance of directed medical therapy. What that means in plain English is that your treatment needs to be aimed squarely at your specific metabolic issue, not somebody else's.
And this really gives us a clear path forward. If you're someone who keeps getting stones, the science points to a really logical process. Get the 24-hour urine test to build that personal risk blueprint. Figure out what's actually wrong. Is it low citrate? Is it high sodium? Is it acidic urine? And then you and your doctor can build a prevention plan that actually targets the real problem.
Which, leaves us with this final thought. In an age where everything is about personalized medicine, maybe the most powerful tool we have against one of life's most painful problems isn't some magic pill. Maybe it's just the knowledge of our own unique body chemistry.